the funny part about it was half of the deals were better the next week after that. So first of all, I appreciate everyone joining today. I think the essence of what Quikly is and why we're here and why we're talking about this topic actually started when I was a kid. I was growing up. What I saw was interesting. My parents, circa 1989, with a little mullet and suspenders and bow tie and all, I noticed that my parents really did not like shopping. They never had a positive opinion about it. They always thought of it as something that they would have to kind of do. And so it was different one time of year. And that time was actually during Black Friday, believe it or not. They would become a excited consumer, a visceral response, that visceral response that they saw with going with their friends and kind of the event that was happening was really interesting and unique. And so they had a positive opinion about that, but not any else during the rest of the year. And so, you know, when I got done with school, I wanted to study the reasons behind that. It intrigued me. And I'll give you guys some examples of how we looked at that here in a couple of minutes. But I think at its core, Black Friday and events like them are very powerful. If you look at last year alone, there were 122 million consumers who shopped in stores on that day. There was an additional 93 million who went and shopped online, which is about 43% higher than the year prior. It's just a huge, huge event. And so the reason and the power behind it is a lot of what we're going to talk about today. And I think the similarities as to how you as a business owner can take advantage of some of the psychology elements to this, to leverage it to drive sales, to drive digital demand. There's a big potential here to kind of take away with some quick wins and things that you can act on. So I think to start, let's quickly dissect what makes Black Friday so powerful in the way that it is. We've really, like I said, I've studied the consumer psychology behind this for the last really decade and have come up with 4 key areas that we'll touch on today. So the first one is really focused around scarcity. And we'll dive into some detail onto each of these, but I think just to kind of lay the groundwork, obviously that one's about creating scarcity of items, scarcity of something to drive response. The second thing is anticipation, right? So building that excitement, building that awareness, creating some kind of thought process ahead of time. Third is social proof. To us, that's about kind of the communal, I don't want to miss out. My friends are talking about something. They have a recommendation on something. I'd like to be a part of that. And then lastly, there's healthy aspects of competition, in our opinion, as it pertains to social influence and consumer psychology. And so when I graduated from college, I decided I didn't want to go the traditional route into finance. It was 2008, especially at that period of time. No one really wanted to, I wanted to take the path less taken. And so I started to study marketing, consumer psychology, and part of these elements brought me to the point of testing out one idea. And the idea was, if you could introduce these correctly, could you get more consumers, and at the time, more students, could you get them to respond in a positive way and actually frequent a business? And so I'll just tell you a quick story. It was very simple. I would text out, I would go around campus, I'd get students to give me their phone numbers, and I'd say, hey, at some time random, I will send you a text for a special offer. And the first 100 people who respond to that are able to take advantage of it. And so I'd go around to Joe's Pizza, and Joe's Pizza would say, look, from 4 to 7 o'clock on Wednesdays, we have no one coming in. And so at 3:55 on Wednesday, I would push out a text to 300 or 400 students. That would say something along the lines of, hey, fastest 100 people to respond to this, get a large pizza for $7. And what I saw was really interesting. I saw every single time within a minute or 2 minutes at most, 100, 200 people plus would respond. And 60 to 70 of them on average would go in and actually use an offer. And I think a lot of the reasons behind that power and why that worked are listed here in these psychological elements on the slide. And so the good news is today, we'll talk through how to make these actionable. And I think that anyone who's on the session today looking to sell or market or just drive more digital demand is able to very effectively and in short order use these to drive that demand. And so we're going to show you today how that works. I think one really good example to show this in real life is, and who uses this and does this well, is obviously Amazon. They're the 800-pound gorilla. They've introduced Prime Day, which is a whole new holiday, right? It's extending from Black Friday. They use elements like anticipation. So if you look at what's happening on the screen, they ask you ahead of time to kind of watch a deal. It's creating excitement. It's creating anticipation, right? And you can see that this starts. They'll even tell you when it starts to kind of build up that excitement. Now, when the deals go live, the other things that they start to do, and you'll see a theme throughout all of these different examples, they start to show you the percent of those that have claimed and how many are left. And kind of what the value is that you're getting. And there's a little aspect of a review that's happening. So there's social proof going on. So they've mastered this. They understand the benefits and the ideas to all of those consumer psychology elements. And what are the results? Well, so from 2019, they just blew it out of the water from the year previous. They extended this, what I call extravaganza, to 48 hours as opposed to 36 in 2018. They sold 175 million items during that 48-hour period, up 75% from 2018. And it equated to about $7 billion that was spent, estimates from Bloomberg and others, during that period of time, up from $4 billion in 2018. So I do believe that most of the reason that this is happening is not because of the deals, is not because of the discounts. It's because of the fact of some of these consumer psychology elements that we're going to talk about today. Let's take another look at another example. So I think a really interesting up and coming brand is the streetwear brand Supreme. Anyone from Detroit with StockX knows that they're a big set of merchandise is sold on StockX that's Supreme. They've created this niche where it's created a name almost for themselves of having products and creating excitement and demand when there really should be none. So let me give you some examples of that. One is they created a themed Supreme Oreo, which original price for 3 cookies was $8, which seems outrageous, right? Well, they sold out in minutes. They had a resale value of upwards of $5,000 people were actually paying for those to be purchased. Another example, they actually put their name and stamped it on a brick. They sold that brick for $30, which sold out again within seconds, literally seconds, at a 6,000% markup from the standard cost of a brick. And then on the resale market, they were going for upwards of $1,000. So someone actually ran the math on this and saw that if you build a house with these bricks, it would cost you roughly $4.7 million just to build the house with these bricks itself at the resale price. And the last thing is a stapler. So again, they're creating this brand, they're creating this element of exclusivity, scarcity, and things like that is allowing them to justify this resale value, and certainly StockX and others are able to capitalize on it. The other thing that's interesting is if you look at the sneaker market, right? So this is another great example where you see this in full effect. So Nike, Yeezy has been another great example where as they roll out these shoes, Yeezys didn't exist 5 years ago, right? So being able to artificially create some of these elements that we'll talk about really is powerful and impactful in a way that you're seeing the resale value is creeping up quite a bit immediately afterwards. The interesting thing for us is this doesn't just extend within retail, and I know retail is the track that we're focused on today. I did want to just highlight too how restaurant brands are creating this. So some of them are created on purpose, some of them are not. So the Ghost Whopper was one that Burger King created. The McRib from McDonald's is actually a seasonal thing, or every so often they'll introduce this and use these elements. The one above it, Popeye's chicken sandwich, I think many of you are probably familiar with that phenomenon that just recently happened. That was not something that they tried to do, but it certainly turned into a PR and marketing opportunity for them to try and grow the brand, and certainly has grown the brand since then. And then Olive Garden actually introduced something recently that was 50 people, the 50 fastest people actually, could buy a lifetime pass for pasta, unlimited pasta for life, for $500. And within literally seconds, 50 people claimed those up and made the purchase. So a lot of times that's really more of a marketing play and to generate buzz over driving tons of transactions. But I think that these are some other good examples outside of retail that we just wanted to bring to the mix. So let's go back to the 4 key elements again for a second. So we're going to break out each of these into more detail. And I think that you guys will start to see how these could start to really impact some of your marketing efforts and think about maybe some different marketing tactics and messaging differently. So the first one we'll start with is scarcity. So a couple key things here. One is that scarcity, obviously by definition, is there's a demand, right, that is greater than supply. That's applied to us as in quotes, because you can really have either a real scarcity, something like there's only so many diamonds in the world, or there's only so much gold, right? So there's scarcity to that, which pushes the value and the price point up. There's also promotional scarcity in the way that we describe it, where a brand is creating more of an urgency to act scarcity element to it. We have a couple of those over to the right. So this is a screenshot of Uber. When you go into Uber Eats, they have specific offers that expire if you don't act on them right in the moment when you're in the app. So that's a great example of scarcity, right? You have a certain limited time frame to be able to use it before it expires. The other one that we saw that we thought was interesting is within a loyalty program, we see a lot of times, use these points or they're going to expire soon. So that's creating kind of this scarcity of, use it or lose it kind of mentality. And then the last one, I know it's small and you can't really see it, but it says we're offering this offer for the next 7 minutes. So if you do this, or if you purchase this within that period of time, we'll give you free delivery or next day delivery. And so where we saw this, it boost sales by about 226%. So these are very real examples where this is happening in real life. Again, we'll give you guys some actionable ideas. And so what we're seeing from this is that if you introduce scarcity correctly, it really does increase perceived value. It's just, there's so much research around that. We actually have a couple of different examples of quotes from consumer psychologists that we've asked and studied this quite a bit. And so the greater the scarcity, the higher the perceived value is in most cases. And I think what we've found from these conversations with these experts are we're just naturally hardwired into feeling this way, right? So from our earliest days, looking at it from kind of a survival mode standpoint, it's vital for things like food, water, shelter. I don't want to downplay the severity of that. And obviously there's nowhere close to the same connection, but I think the main thing being is that instinctually it's in us as consumers to think about it that way. And so this is kind of area number one of the element that can really be tapped into in a way where it feels like it could be impactful in a marketing standpoint. The next one is anticipation, right? So with scarcity, you need to build anticipation. So if you think about the event of Black Friday again, the build up to that, the thought process of, man, what am I going to do? Let's put out the ads. We're going to tease the ads or leak the ads, quote unquote, for people to start thinking about what they're going to do well in advance. It's really the expectation or excitement around a future event, right? For me as a consumer to start to think about this, and that thought process actually forces someone to think about it days in advance. And many times what we're seeing is that you can see some quotes here from Dr. Matt Johnson, a leading consumer neuroscientist, basically saying many times consumers feel more excited about the future state of something happening rather than when it does. So, a good example of that is, someone eating the candy bar on the right side here. The actual process of opening up the wrapper, about to take a bite, is much more exciting and elating than when you actually take it and have that in your mouth. And then, from Dr. Kelly Goldsmith, we'd said, we think something good might be coming. It creates a sense of hope. So there's kind of this, again, just the hope mentality, the anticipation around it. You can see with events like Apple, it's showtime. Please join us for a special event on March 25th. This was probably sent out a week or two in advance. Before that, they were probably teasing out or quote unquote leaking a product for people to start talking about it. So the anticipation's building. There's another great example of this below, which is when you buy something, you make a purchase, we're seeing more and more now different solutions that actually will speak to how just real-time updates of where your product is, right? It's on its way. Here's the current location. Let us send you alerts by Facebook Messenger. Let us send you text alerts. Do I really care that my package is in Ohio right now? That anticipation is exciting, and these are moments in time where marketers feel like they can really market to you going forward and have another touch point, an authentic touch point to try and drive additional commerce. The third one is social proof, right? And so, this one also instinctually, I think we are certainly influenced by our closest friends, our family, and our social circles. And so we've done some surveys ourselves and then also third-party surveys, this one being specific to Nielsen. And 8 out of 10 people said that they completely or somewhat trust the recommendations of friends, right? Again, I think we're hardwired to trust people, family, friends, influencers with our purchase decisions. And so not only does this create kind of that social proof where you see people lining up, same thing with, Black Friday, in that if a friend of mine's going, I don't want to miss out on the opportunity. I don't want to miss out on the score. Same thing with, Apple events. Again, I think Apple and Amazon are obviously great marketers. And so they've figured out a way to get by invitation only kind of exclusivity is a key piece of this. That FOMO is created because of it. And so that's a great way to drive response when you wouldn't get it otherwise. The last one is competition. And so the competition to us is really a healthy competition in the way that you can create it. So it's about the achievement of winning something, the prize that's powerful. The example of Black Friday, right? So having 5 TVs, you're the first in line, you've been camping out, you kind of have the sweat equity per se of doing that, and the score of winning or getting one of those 5 is really well worth it, and it makes it feel that much better. You almost have like battle scars on and a kind of like a war story, obviously, on the ability to do it. So we saw Dante Peruz, who's a leading consumer psychologist, actually thinks, we have an innate desire to win as people. And again, that goes back to our earliest kind of ancestors for the fight to survive. And so, marketers are using this in that way too. So this is an example of Chuck E. Cheese, click fastest, the fastest people to do it, tap here, get to take advantage of this. This is actually an example that we work with American Eagle, where the fastest to complete a certain action get the best thing. So the fastest 100 people to sign up for their loyalty program get 25 off of a purchase. So I think these are 4 great examples to speak on and again, kind of point back to as you think about your marketing efforts to drive that digital demand. To bring it to life even further, let us show you an example of how a marketer or a client of ours uses this to connect the dots further. So this example is actually with retailer Lane Bryant. They have stores locally. Their focus for this specific type of activation was driving social followers and driving digital purchase. And so their approach to it was that they pushed out a teaser announcing the fact that we're rewarding you soon for doing some action. Follow us on Instagram, refer friends to win sometime soon. They pushed it out to their email audience, their existing database. They pushed it out to some of their social following. And those clicks or visits were taken to a branded experience that was Lane Bryant. It was a web page. It was easy to access, just like any other website. And they explained how it worked. So $500 gift card was going to be released sometime soon for the fastest to respond. The second person would receive $250. Third person, $100. So some pretty good, incentives and offers, and special offers for many others. And it was as simple as someone providing their email, hitting I want in, and then we asked them, how would you like to be notified about this release? Do you want to receive an email or a text? We can send you either one. 70 or 80% of people on average will select text because they don't want to miss out when that live release happens. And they confirm that. And so this whole thing lasts about 5 to 10 days, people signing up, demand continued. And the two things that they did to increase that demand was, well, first of all, to hit their goal or KPI of driving Instagram followers. They allowed people who participated in this to actually follow them on Instagram. And they see thousands of incremental Instagram followers by getting them to go through this campaign. And the incentive for them to do so is they earn a heads up or insight into when the live release is actually going to be. So if I follow Lane Bryant through this campaign, 5 minutes before these get released, I'll get a heads up warning text or email saying, get ready, this is going to go live soon. And you can imagine, because the fastest to respond gets the $500 gift card, it's very motivating for someone to do so. So we're motivating that key action here for that advantage in the competition. The other thing that we turned on is the ability for them to refer friends. So you could either share it with, share it through Facebook, share it through SMS, share it through email. But for each friend of yours that you got to participate and kind of have that social proof that we talked about previously, you would earn a heads up of 5 minutes. And so on average, not specific to Lane Bryant, we're seeing 6 to 7 friends are actually being invited per person who invites, simply because they want to earn the most time, they want to have the most social proof, and they want a leg up in the competition. So that's the activation phase. The live release is pretty much a matter of minutes. It's strategic. It can be pushed out to the opt-ins or participants at any given time. So it could be around a specific sale. Lane Bryant will really push this around key events to drive purchase. And so it's as simple as a text comes through, an email comes through, hey, and announcement, this is now live, lock in your position, click the secret link, and you lock in your spot. So the top 3 people who respond get the gift cards. Everyone else is served up some kind of offer to use and take advantage of with a digital call to action to drive that purchase. So it can either be on a website, or if they wanted to, it could really be to drive them into stores as well. So this entire experience really takes into account a lot of those key pieces. We thought it was a good example just to kind of bring to life one example of how those elements work. It's got all the different pieces to it: anticipation, scarcity, social proof, and then competition. This is a different specialty retailer. We use 3 gift cards here as well: $500, $250, and $100. Over a period of 5 days, using that kind of same psychology, they generated 265,000 people to opt in for their campaign. Roughly about 90,000 of them were referred. So they didn't come from that initial kind of outreach through email. They came from those people referring their friends, just like we saw on the previous slide. They saw a huge increase in weekly loyalty enrollments, along with a huge uptick in just email and SMS subscribes. So this is a really good kind of snapshot of a specialty retailer who's generating huge amounts of response and acquisition using the same psychology and approach. What we thought you might like to see is the live release itself was that tail end part that I showed you on the previous slide where the heads up text and the live release announcement happens. This campaign specifically that we now have on the screen, we actually took a video of a dashboard to watch as people responded. This is sped up a little bit, but I'll kind of walk you through it. So everyone who opted in over those 5 or 6 days got a text. These are the number of people who are responding. This is the amount of time that has lapsed. So basically within 2 minutes, we had 60,000 people who had responded and tried to lock in their position to claim a reward or offer. And the offer was really pretty similar to what they might have gotten otherwise. It was just served up in a different, unique way of using that consumer psychology and excitement. So you can see here within close to about 5 minutes, just under 5 minutes, we were close to 100,000 people who responded to try and claim an offer or incentive, which is again, just a really interesting way of looking at how immediate the response is during things like this. So let's turn it to the the task at hand with everyone who's on this call. We wanted to give you guys a couple of kind of thought-starting ideas of how, as a marketer or someone who's a business owner, can really use this psychology effectively to drive a certain marketing goal or KPI for you. So let's do a quick exercise. I think the first thing that we, for us, always is step one is let's define your primary goal, right? So is the goal to drive revenue? Is the goal to drive, the goal is always to drive revenue ultimately, but in any given effort that you're doing, is the goal primarily to drive revenue? Is it to acquire digital CRM? So loyalty members, email subscribers, mobile app installs, something that focuses on, kind of building that database and that audience that you guys can communicate with? Or is it trying to get your existing customers maybe to advocate on your behalf and create referrals? So these are 3 key areas and KPIs that we see quite a bit. We felt that this would be an interesting exercise to think about, and we're happy to talk about this here, share these slides with you guys afterwards, and certainly even give you some strategy help outside of this call altogether. But the idea is step 1, define your goal, think about the main KPI or thing you're focused on. Step 2 then is from that goal, start to think about what's a unique and exciting set of offers, rewards, or products for your business. The important point here to call out is it doesn't need to always be discount focused. You can get creative. That's kind of part of the fun to it. So we tried to bring in 3 examples. The first one is if you're a bookstore, or let's say you recently authored a book. And let's say the goal of that one, as that person who's the author, is to create awareness about the book, is to drive sales, digital sales of the book. That's kind of the one that we came up with for this exercise. And so our idea there for this, in the step 2, is to introduce kind of a limited edition. It's to create something that feels slightly higher of value than something I can get today, I can get tomorrow, and so forth as the incentive. And again, it doesn't need to be discount focused. So I think a couple ones that we came up with for this would be, could you introduce personally signed copies? Could you have a limited number and market the fact that you've personally signed, maybe doodled in, given some kind of piece of a note within? Could you create a way to make that, again, excitement, scarcity, FOMO, so even social proof, right? Could you have some way of creating the signed copies? Could you create almost a unique cover artwork that it was a limited edition, or even potentially first dibs? So first dibs at the latest edition, or when you launch the book, could you create a way to allow people to buy it first or first rights to purchase? Those are kind of 3 areas that we thought that this might be an interesting incentive or offer for that category. The next one is apparel retail. And so we just assume the goal there could be something like sales, obviously, sales in a digital standpoint or into stores, and building a CRM list. And so in this one, our thought there too is that you could have kind of a limited run or sales event that you could market, right? So it could be about running a special store event and having access to kind of RSVP or gain either the ability to go to it, or it could be about getting early access to that event, maybe with a VIP status. Again, it doesn't have to be discount focused. You could have it be focused on first dibs of a new product. So if there's new products that you're getting in, it could be about the ability to purchase, that selection first. Or it could even be around something promo specific, right? So first come, first serve, maybe the first person who uses an offer gets the best discount. And then it goes down from there. Or, over the number of days, if someone comes in day one, the discount's the greatest. If you come in day two, it goes down from there and so forth. So you have a lot of flexibility with how these can be used in that reward structure. The third one we looked at was around beauty salons. So let's just say the goal there is to drive new customer bookings. You want to try and drive, especially with everything going on, you want to try and grow your clientele list. And so our thought with that is you have advocates, right? You have people who are your current customers. Let's use them to advocate on your behalf, create that social proof, and have them refer others into the salon. And so you could have this be either one-sided or two-sided. You could give those that refer successfully, your current customers, an incentive, but you could also give those that they refer something as well. So whether it be free upgrade service, maybe that's something that doesn't cost that much that you could have them attached to, which would create excitement. You could give them limited batch of free samples. Again, maybe some products or merchant products that you have that you could probably get for free. Or you could potentially even give them low denomination gift cards to drive that first, trial or visit or a repeat visit, right? So giving someone who hasn't been in for a while a low denomination gift card obviously drives them in. They upsell into a larger, spend, and so it's a win for you as well. So these are kind of three examples of how you could see this be brought to life across different types of verticals. I think step 3 in looking at this then is how are you going to promote it, right? Where is it going to be promoted? At what point is it going to be promoted? And how are we going to allow people to kind of think about or raise their hand to say that they're interested in this? And so that step for us is really where you need to build that excitement. You need to build that anticipation. You need to intrigue and get response and captivation in the right moment. So this is just a generic version of an example of something you could do. Heads up, as a special customer, we wanted to let you know that there's a special offer or thing coming. It's going to be first come, first served. Are you interested in us telling you about it when it becomes available? And this is the thing that you could do across all different channels, right? So you could push this out to social, to your Facebook page, to your Instagram page, to places that are not, you don't have a communication channel going on with that customer today. And the whole goal is to get them into a program, provide their email, provide their SMS, provide something that you can have a regular ongoing communication and control that dialogue. You could also put this in-store signage to have some kind of call out, which would be, text a keyword to sign up and participate and have us notify you. You could have a QR code, which, believe it or not, actually work much better today than they did, a couple months ago even. Or you could use paid media. So you could use paid ads, display ads, and things like that. Now, the next step, and an important one, is when you announce this and promote it, you really want to have a very clear place, a landing page, a splash page, something that articulates the value as to why this person should care, what they're going to get. We kept it simple for this one, but you could really explain on this page what the incentive is, how it's broken out, that it's going to be released soon. And you want to capture some kind of piece of data that you can communicate with them. So email, SMS, something that's direct. SMS is the best. I know it's not the easiest to set up, and it's certainly not the cheapest, but it's got high open rates and you can get a response. Email would probably be the second best. Email open rates are not great, but it's better than other options. But you want to capture that piece of information and kind of let them know and communicate with through that channel going forward. Step 4 is, and this is certainly optional, but I'd say you can motivate in that engagement when they provide their email as a kind of another extension of that engagement layer to motivate some kind of action or behavior while you have them captivated in that moment. So the example that I showed you for Lane Bryant are good examples, right? So you could have that customer, that consumer join your loyalty program. And the advantage for us, and when we run these campaigns, is to get a heads up as to when this live release is going to happen. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be tied to that kind of approach. So this is about joining a loyalty program of the brands. It could be about having them refer friends again, like we showed on the previous slide with Lane Bryant. It could even be to have them follow you on social. It could be about to download an app. It could be about to answer some questions about themselves, where are they currently shopping today? There's all kinds of creative things that you can do here to kind of get a better understanding and communication going with that customer or prospect. And then lastly is step 5, which is releasing them for claim once demand has been built, and then generating digital demand and sales immediately after. And so for us, the way that we think about that is announcing this reward, surprising them with this kind of moment, this elated moment where anticipation's been building, make it feel exclusive and special with a link that we send to them. And then immediately from that link, we're announcing and revealing some kind of incentive or reward. And we're explaining to them that it's kind of a congratulations. It's a very kind of premium-esque surprise and delight experience. We're revealing what that is. We're explaining here that this expires within a certain number of days, and we're communicating that first and foremost. And then we're having a very clear call to action, which the call to action here is to redeem now, transact, get directions if there was an in-store component to drive them into stores. But on the digital kind of demand side, redeem now drives them immediately to purchase or transact on your website, into stores. And, from there, obviously the cash registers start, ringing. And so what's interesting that we've seen is that you can use very easy, similar kinds of offers and incentives here, serving them up through this mechanic and getting that sweat equity, right? And getting the achievement of responding fastest actually fundamentally changes how they perceive it. And so the redemption rates through this process will be much higher because of that approach. So hopefully that gives you a good example and kind of some thought starters and ideas to think about in your business. If you're a business owner or a marketer who's thinking about how do I start driving demand especially during these times with this type of consumer psychology. It's very impactful. It doesn't require a huge amount of investment to do so. You can really get started in testing this with just messaging to your existing client base and seeing if it makes a difference across the funnel. We wanted to also just kind of recap some of the steps to be successful in this, right? So the first one, first and foremost, which is kind of the theme and the idea behind this presentation, is tap into the psychological elements, add scarcity, add anticipation, create that social proof, allow customers to be a little bit competitive with one another, make it be known and transparent that this is going on in your promotional marketing. The second step is make sure you define your goal, right? So make sure you're clear on what you're trying to motivate and achieve. Create the scarcity from it, right? So get creative with how to entice an incentive. Remember, it does not need to be focused on discount. Build anticipation when you can. Tease it out as coming soon. Capture people who are interested in participating in that ahead of time. Second to last, introduce social proof. Allow people to kind of advocate on your behalf to drive additional awareness and new customers for you. And then lastly, really create competition, right? So release them, award them to those who act fastest, award them for those who take advantage of it first. There's all kinds of ways that you can really create that in a natural way and make it something that is motivating for consumers and exciting, but also really does, again, drive the cash registers to ring for you. And so with that, our company is Quikly. We're the leader in urgency marketing. We have a platform that easily does that. It taps into some of the psychology elements that we mentioned today. We also have a team of experts to deploy against that. And I'd say marketers and brands across different types of verticals are taking advantage of this to create brand stickiness, to drive digital demand in CRM, to get sales, to kind of reinvigorate some of their promotions, to drive that consumer psychology and increasing redemption rates, which ultimately increases revenue, and also the ability just to accelerate new customer acquisition. So we wanted to offer up, our services. This is certainly not a sales pitch. I think what we'd love to do just to support the local community and anyone that is a business owner, a marketer who's looking to sell product, we'd love to help you think about holistically, even outside of our platform, how we could infuse consumer psychology into some of your marketing efforts. And so we wanted to offer up that as just a free service right now for anyone who's interested and in need. Reach out to us, say hello at Quikly. That's an email that we set up. Just let us know that you are a part of listening in today, and we'd be happy to set up, some time just to talk through strategies and see if there's anything we can do to help. So I appreciate everyone's time. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Shawn. It was, again, it was tactful, right? You gave this dirt level way to think about exactly what to do while making sure we understood from a clouds level how it applies. I like that a lot.
Appreciate that.
It's an interesting way to hear from your perspective on how to even approach it in the first place, right? I mean, you can put out a promo, you can put up a sign that says sale, and literally just the strategy around that method. You're saying there's some tactics around it, and you guys just want to help. That's awesome.
Thank you very much.
So someone asked, right as you were finishing up, Hema, can you go over step 4, please?
Step 4. Let's go back to 4.
Build anticipation.
I'm not sure. Is she talking about this step 4?
Hema, do you mean this step 4 right here? Show us in the chat. Belinda says, thank you, Shawn. Rebecca says, thank you.
I'll assume unless I hear otherwise. So this is, these are just different ideas as to if you're running a promotion, you could almost boost up how you benefit as a business owner or marketer with it, right? So every touch point and interaction you have with your customer base, you should be thinking about, how do I deepen that relationship? How do I make them loyal? How do I have multiple channels of communication that you can communicate with them through that are outside of things like social? Because now to communicate with that customer, you have to pay to play. So the more that you can have an ongoing conversation, the better. And so for us, thinking through that is, are there different ways to either deepen the relationship with the customers you have in those promos? Can you get them to, if they're following you on Instagram, can you get them to sign up for your email program? Are there different places that you can drive them to do that call to action? Would be kind of these key motivators. The way that we motivate through this, in our mechanic at least, is using this idea of earning a heads up or kind of a benefit, or increasing your odds is kind of the simplest way to think about it, of getting a better incentive. It doesn't have to be that way. It could be about, hey, if you want to take advantage of this offer, great, here it is. However, if you provide your email or if you sign up for following us on Instagram, we'll double up that offer or we'll make it slightly better. Those are the kinds of things you can really get creative with to think about how to deepen that relationship and benefit you.
Rebecca in the Q&A is asking a pretty relevant question, maybe related to this, and taking what you're talking about and applying it to RSVP or demands for virtual events. How can we apply what you're saying to life as we know it currently, virtually.
To generate like registrants for virtual events?
It looks like, yeah, registrants or RSVPs, and then subsequent follow-on from that to actually attending.
Sure. So it's a great use case. I would say that the event itself, you could set up a campaign ahead of time where if the event is a paid event, you could make it so that, and you see this pretty often, but it's kind of like the first X to register and pay get the lowest price. Then it starts to creep up from there. So you can get a higher price point, and if you register last minute, it's the highest price that it is, and sometimes it even sells out. And again, you can create artificial or promotional scarcity and have it just sell out, and then maybe even unlock additional spots at random and create more demand that way. If there's exclusive content, you could have it so that it doesn't have to be discount focused or price specific. It could be about, if you register first, you get exclusive content. You get, VIP status. It could be about all kinds of different things, but I think the main thing that we would suggest is, if it's event related, having that event have a live release where there's another touch point for you to be able to communicate with them and then drive that reaction could be impactful. So you could have people, hey, we're about to release tickets soon to this event. Would you like to, enter this special promotion? We're going to release 100 spots at a 15% discount. If you're interested, let us notify you. Have them opt in. The day you're planning on releasing the tickets anyways, push that live to those that had kind of raised their hand prior. And you're going to notice just an uptick in the number of people who respond and take advantage of that, because the achievement of them responding fastest. And it's just another touch point where it's a different message than just, the standard, hey, buy these tickets today. You can buy them tomorrow. You can buy them the next day. It could really create kind of a new twist on the message to it.
Love it. And Kimo said, thanks, Shawn. So I think you covered the question there. Michael is asking, would you track your progress from implementing this marketing strategy using standard SEO? Tracking your progress using standard SEO. I guess SEO isn't a tracking thing, but maybe just address the tracking on, let's assume we have analytics on whatever platform. I'm guessing you're going to track. And since you've been tracking in the past, you guys will be able to track then the difference in using the tactics. And you actually showed it literally live. So I guess, Michael, I'm answering it for Shawn, so I apologize. But
I think he's got a good point about tracking, right? So making kind of, if you run a promotion today or a sales event or whatever you're starting with, right? And you need to understand the funnel. You need to understand how many people you think, as best you can, are you reaching out to. How many of those people from the reach out are the message? Is it resonating? Is it not resonating? Are they responding in some way to show interest and intent? If you're sending an email, how many people are opening that email? How many of them are clicking through from that email? Ultimately through to the funnel at the end of how many of them are taking advantage of something and buying and doing something that you want them to do, whatever that goal is. I think what you need to look at is that funnel, and then A/B test and say, okay, adding in these different elements of consumer psychology, what am I seeing either increases or decreases, right? Is my net at the end of the day higher or lower than I would see with these psychological elements versus not? And I think, I think his name was Michael. Michael, to answer your question, you just need to compare that funnel with what you're currently seeing. SEO specifically, I think, as it pertains to how I'm thinking about this, is really just an outreach channel, right? To motivate that initial kind of prompt of response. So I think to look at SEO without this and then with this, and having urgency to act from that click of SEO when someone finds you in a search, really could impact the conversion rate once they do click. And from there, that's really where the funnel comes into effect.
Let's see, we have some questions coming through in the Q&A. Thank you for using both state of conversion rates. Yeah. Shawn, you're doing a nice job of connecting what makes sense on how people might be thinking about what they're asking and what you're saying. And it's nice to hear. Elisa, can we also go over element 4, competition again?
Sure.
Element 4.
Yeah, sorry. I think there's probably a couple places here where we've interchanged some different pieces. So element 4, there's these points.
Competition.
So competition for this example and what I showed in this part. Oh, sorry, up here, competition, element number 4. So this really comes down to how you set up the incentives and the rewards. So in this case, the digital competition of how we're thinking about this is if you were to run promotions and you said, look, we're giving this to everyone right now. However, unlike a standard promo where I could use this, you could use this, she could use this, we could use it today, we could use it tomorrow, we could use it next week. It's very passive. It's not that exciting. What we've seen is if you can somehow reposition or twist those to be about being more competitive, along with all the other elements that we're talking about, it actually increases perceived value. And so for this one, what we're saying is the first 100 people who claim get the best thing. They get 25 off of a purchase in this example. The next, and I know it's small, so I can zoom in here. The next 5,000 people, which again, this is for a large national retailer, but the next 5,000 people get 20 off your purchase. And everyone else thereafter gets 15. And by the way, this is only open for 24 hours. So if you want in, you have to take advantage of it and claim now. So that creates a competition. It creates this element of the Black Friday-esque approach, right? Where I'm competing for the doorbuster special of TVs. There's only a certain quantity. I want to one up my neighbor, my fellow, consumer. And I feel like I've got that fear of missing out if I don't take advantage of it. And so that's how, in this example, you can create kind of a little bit of that competition.
Helen asks, do you have any experience or case studies on how startup companies apply the strategy for acquiring early customers pre-product for a service?
Yeah, that's another great example. Helen, thanks for asking it. So we haven't partnered with any, but I have seen some really creative, not to say, by the way, we'd probably be willing to. So if there's anyone listening and they have specific use cases, we'd love to talk through that and see if there might be something we can help out with. I've seen some really interesting ways of doing it. So especially hot in-demand products or things that have built a lot of hype around, you can put up a simple splash page and actually capture people in kind of a queue and get them to say, hey, the first people who sign up are going to gain access to it. So it's kind of a first come, first served demand there. And I've seen that to be very successful. You can spin that too. So you could say, look, if you sign up first and are one of our first users, you're going to get special access going forward for a certain period of time with new products. We want you to be our beta testers. We'd like you to be an influencer. So there's all kinds of creative ways you can kind of think about that. But I think it still plays into the idea of, can you get those initial people who sign up to advocate on your behalf and kind of share it with friends? Can you get them to give them something of value that they're going to want to act on, and will create that buzz? And so it's just looking at kind of the funnel and that mechanic to think about what's the goal and then kind of executing from there. It's a great point though, and use case.
It's super interesting. I might connect with you about startup weekends. If teams form Friday nights and Saturday they need to talk to customers, it might be a great thing to jump into in psychology to begin with Friday night to plant that seed and anticipation of what's going to come Saturday and make that announcement so that people can, we'll send you the text of what we decide, and then the first 20 get the product free or something.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Anything that makes it unique and fresh, right? Like there's just so much noise out there.
Right.
Anyone listening to this as a consumer, you understand how much noise there is and how many times brands are trying to compete for your attention. So anything you can do to really introduce this fun kind of new twist to it, I think will be an immediate win.
All right. And our last question, we'll have time for to be respectful of everyone's time. Elisa asked, can you talk about how this is similar, different from gaming mechanics and gamification? So maybe the over-under on what we're talking about here and gamification.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is it goes hand in hand, right? So gamification, consumer psychology is kind of a term that we coined. Depending on the marketer you talk to, they either had a positive or negative opinion about gamification for whatever number of reasons. I think a lot of them have elements to it. I think the thing that we've seen that's really important is it has to feel simple to do for a consumer. You don't want them to jump through 15 hoops. You don't want it to feel forced or completely inauthentic. So it's got to be done in the brand's voice and kind of their branding. But I would say to your question, it really is very similar in nature. I think you could probably categorize these in similar places. Gamification sometimes has a lot of elements of consumer psychology. I don't know that they always do, but they certainly go hand in hand.
Thanks so much, Shawn, for being here for one, making it on virtually, but for sharing your insights and all your expertise on the topic. A lot of fun.
Thank you for having me, and I appreciate everyone's time. And like I said, we'd love to donate some time to the community and see if we can help in any way, just even think through this. So please reach out, and we hope to hear from you soon.